Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. I'm having some glitches, but hopefully everyone can see me. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Kate, I'm the COO of AIM Group. I'm delighted to welcome you here for what is going to be a fantastic webinar. They always are. If you don't know who AIM Group are, we provide business intelligence covering automotive marketplaces. And we do that through our news and analysis and our events. I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsorship partner, Kaiser, who are our sponsor today. And some housekeeping before we get started. As always, this webinar will be recorded and you will receive it in a few days once it's ready. If you've got questions, please do pop them in the chat. We will try and get to as many as we can. And make sure to stay tuned to the end because I'll be telling you how to get a discount code for AutoSbuzz. So before we get started, I'm going to introduce a short video from our sponsorship partner, Kaiser, and I wish you a very great webinar.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Turpin. I'm one of the AIM Group's principals, and I'm going to welcome on stage our three guests who hopefully will appear in a second or two. So certainly 1, 2, 3, good. Hi everybody, we're going to kick this off by asking you to give yourselves a brief introduction, you and your business. So maybe start with Carolina.
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Carolina Edwards-Smyda. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Autotrader, which is UK's leading automotive marketplace.
Robin?
Yeah, so I'm Robin Suve, EVP of Mobility at Vend Marketplaces, formerly known as Schibsted. We're the leading marketplaces in the Nordics with household brands such as Finn, Blocket, DBA, Bilbasen, Tori, Oikotie. So very nice to be here.
Yeah, hi, I'm Christine Schink, another leading marketplace here, Germany's largest vehicle marketplace, more than 1.6 million listed vehicles for both private customers and vehicle dealers. We have 140 million visits each month, so a lot of data. I built AI solutions and digital products for more than a decade, as does Mobile, so I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for inviting us, Jonathan.
Brilliant. Well, welcome all of you and big thanks for being here. So our topic today is the impact of AI on the lead generation process. So if we think of the lead journey as beginning with helping consumers find the right car, getting them engaged in a lead, and then going all the way through to the dealers managing those leads in a CRM or elsewhere, which part of the lead journey are you most focused on at the moment in terms of enhancing with AI, and what's driving that priority? Maybe we'll kick off with Robin, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. And I really like how you frame that question, Jonathan, because that's the way we see it as well. It's a very long lead journey. It's not just sort of a click of a send button, but it's sort of a non-linear process moving online to offline back and forth over several months. And we see that there are many opportunities for us to support our users as they understand more and more what they want in terms of make and model, in what the car is worth, and when is the right moment to buy or sell a new car. So I think we can really leverage AI in many of these different steps. And then, of course, one thing that can change this journey quite fundamentally going forward is also that we expect not only humans to be doing this, but also machines or agents to be doing this. So I think this puts quite a lot of efforts into our marketplaces to be able to support this. And for us, we're really doubling down on the foundations. We believe that data is going to be key in this in order to deliver good AI solutions for our users. So it's data on our users, it's data on our vehicles, and to have that sort of structured and trusted in a good way. So what we're doing concretely right now is to drive a logged in ratio and to really verify those users with bank ID so that we know who is behind this request or outreach to a dealer. And then secondly, we're investing on the receiving end of that lead. So building out our lead management offering for dealers, both so that we can support them in becoming more efficient in responding to those leads, but also to sort of prove the value that we're delivering and hence also improve the return on investment on our marketplaces. So I think this, all in all, I believe AI will make our marketplaces more personalized, more enjoyable to utilize, and provide more sort of ROI to our dealers. So really exciting times.
So in short, the answer is you're focused all the way along the journey.
I think that's always the case when it comes to dual-sided marketplaces, but the foundation that really sort of moves the needle is data, and it's about understanding the users and their needs, and to be able to verify that. I think you could easily foresee a future as well where trust is diminishing, and I think if we can both prove the value that we deliver to dealers, and I think that will sort of increase the user experience.
Brilliant. Carolina, how about Auto Trader? Where are you most focused?
And I would say, like, very similar to Robin is saying, we are taking quite a holistic view and trying to look end to end and in different stages of that journey, starting with exploration, providing more personalized experience, then encouraging users, like nudging them to take action, capturing that intent, and capturing more actions to be done online, ultimately supporting conversion to sale. All of that matters for us to be successful, because ultimately our goal is to connect buyers and sellers, and which results in a transaction. So we are looking at opportunities at each stage of that journey. And it's similar to what Robin is saying. AI, it's not just AI on its own. AI is this engine, and the fuel is this rich proprietary data that is being fed and can be used now in a very different ways to what was possible before. So it opens up loads of opportunity to really transform user experience, drive better outcomes for both buyers and sellers. So for us, the lead journey itself is evolving and will continue evolving by merging this knowledge about the buyer's preferences, intent, understanding, like very deep understanding of vehicle inventory in the greatest granularity, and having visibility of the whole market. We are really building the foundations for a far more like data-driven, personalized experience. And then the very end of that process is lead management itself. The process of lead management, once you get this, rich bundle of information, there's a lot of efficiencies to be had there as well, in terms of moving from like manual follow-ups towards very intelligent, data-driven nurturing, and being able to drive to better conversion, very timely, delivering high-value outcomes. So, and all of that, again, underpinned by the right data, delivered at the right time about the buyers, about the vehicles. All of that coming together creates a lot of opportunities at all of those stages in the journey.
And is there, at the moment in the journey, is there one place where either consumers or dealers would see most impact of AI? Is there something kind of just stands out in terms of what you've done?
I think the most recent development that we've done is around how we are seeing a lead evolving, I would say, and how we are enriching this. Like, what lead has traditionally been is like this one-way entry of information that lands in the CRM, which is usually contact details like name and phone number. We are seeing that in a very different way, and a lot of our focus of the last few years was evolving what the lead actually is, and it's becoming this very dynamic, multi-directional flow of insight between the buyer, seller, and the marketplace that could include so much more than just phone number person that might click the button. It actually includes a lot of insight about the buyer, their intent, their preferences, and that's our buying signal product that we've launched and we providing to retailers that better connects buyers and sellers in that journey to result in a better journey. And then Deal Builder itself that helps buyers to do more online, to enrich this lead with more actions that the consumer can complete online for a more seamless transition to the forecourt as well. So a lot of that is about how we create those right foundations with the right data and insight that can be leveraged then to create more personalized experiences for buyers.
I love that approach. I think it sort of reduces frictions quite a lot. And I mean, we started out saying that this is a long journey. I think it's maybe not for every consumer to spend that much time. They would like us to sort of support them in removing friction and making it easier. So really good.
Kristen.
Yeah, look, seems to be a playbook. Absolutely. It's about the data for sure. And also in our case, we really work like across that whole journey and apply AI where it solves our customers' problems best, of course. What we focus on most on, though, are actually the handoffs between these different phases, let's say, because like a real-time connection actually fails when intent gets lost, right? So between discovery, reaching out to a dealer, and actually also the execution on the dealer side. So working end-to-end is really crucial. I mentioned it in the intro, right? It's not new for Mobility. It's more than a decade that we actually build like a rich profile of our users. We know what they're interested in. Relevance in search is a big topic, so that they actually reach the right inventory faster. Workflow, we just talked about it. AI really, really opens the opportunity here to reduce this back and forth, to reduce conversations that feel a bit like tire kicking for our dealers, right? And then like in the third part, and one of the most important ones that we really doubled down on in the last year and a half is AI decision support for our dealers that really help our dealers to identify what to change next to improve outcomes for them.
Yeah. And is it, I mean, you know, all of you are very much end-to-end in your description of what you're doing. Feels that marketplaces are much more in the dealer world than they were, you know, 5 or 10 years ago. So kind of systems capabilities, etc. Is that an area where you really see AI allowing you to increase the level of services that you provide to dealers?
Well, yes, and it allows us to close the loop. You both talked about data and rich data and deep data. And of course, all of us see that it actually starts with listing the vehicle, right? And how rich that data is that comes in. So helping our dealers to actually list with the right attributes, enough photos with a good description already really fuels and closes the loop, fuels the consumer experience eventually too.
Okay, and do you, I mean, collectively, do you have all the data you need, or is part of this journey about finding new pieces of data that or collecting and aggregating new pieces of data that in this AI world you need and you maybe didn't feel you needed before?
I actually think, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. You first.
I actually, it's beyond just collecting and aggregating, and AI itself enables you to create a very different levels of insight, whether it's on buyers, on users, vehicles, and how this data can be delivered in real time, what predictive models can be created, and therefore what information can be implied to really power recommendations, personalized experiences. And so I think the AI is not just the outcome, it's an enabler of all of this. You know, there's a lot actually that is happening behind the scenes that AI enables in very different ways as well.
So it's actually
I was just about to say as well, Jonathan, that sort of with AI, we can also let our users actually tell us the intent, not only sort of click buttons that they used to do, save searches or do filters, but now we can actually have a conversation, right? So I think that's also going to be hugely exciting, and it's going to provide us with much more personalization opportunities and to extract new kinds of data that we never had in the old world.
Okay, and is there, are you also finding that you need to get more third-party data of any kind that you didn't have before? I mean, are things like, say, pricing information that you didn't have? I mean, I know, some of you, Auto Trader in particular, very deeply into pricing information, but are there kinds of data that you're finding you're needing to support this in a new way? And if so, what kind of areas are they?
I think for us, it's mostly centered around taxonomy data, sort of vehicle spec data, and we're also looking into other kinds of data sources. For example, when was the vehicle serviced, or what kind of repairs have there been done? So I think really building out vehicle history is also an important part of feeding that valuation algorithm, and to really provide a sense of trust and safety. I think that's sort of a key differentiator for us.
Good. So, Carolina, traditionally, a lead has been a kind of direct line of communication between a consumer and a dealer, either by email or by phone, or I think in many cases, as much as 50% of it is just walk-in, which is its own kind of lead. Do you think AI is changing the nature of the lead itself?
Oh, definitely. And this is what I started alluding to earlier, where lead is not just this one-way handover that somebody does something, click, and they are thrown over the fence to a retailer and the process ends. It's about like this dynamic, it's building a lead can happen over a longer period of time, because you would like to think that the transition between the online and offline experiences can go back and through, and like keep the consumer, like the way the buying a car is complex, and it's not just one-off visit to a marketplace or retailer. Sometimes it takes much longer. So capturing a lot of that insight, a lot of that information throughout that journey, and building this bundle of insight, that's a very different type of lead than what we imagine traditionally. So like it's almost like it's a three-way conversation that happens between buyer, seller, and the marketplace. Like there are three dimensions, rather than the buyer doing something and handing over to the seller. And buyer and marketplace's role is not being this third wheel, but being this intelligence layer that builds on top to really strengthen that connection between buyer and seller, with a goal of driving best possible outcomes, so a sale. So marketplace becomes this co-driver for the buyer in this world, helping them to get to the right outcome in the easiest possible way. Although easy is not the right word, because buying a car is not easy, but I think by providing the right insight, the right recommendations, data, we can make buyers feel more confident in the process and support them on that journey.
And does that mean you're, as a platform, during that lead kind of process, that you're actually beginning to have conversations with the consumer or the dealer about the lead? I mean, AI-led conversations, or is that still something for the future?
I think over time it physically might become a conversation. At this stage is surfacing the right insight, the right recommendations in the journey to help, or even surfacing the right data, the right nudges, whether it's through the experience, through CRM, whatever that might be. But the key is using all the intelligence that we've got to be very personalized and very mindful about what we know about the buyer, and how we help them in the best possible way, targeted way, so it feels relevant to them and genuinely helpful to drive them to action and to the right outcome. At the same time, we are working in a similar way with dealers, with retailers, and again, how we provide them with the right insight to make their processes as efficient as possible, to help them to meet user expectations. So we're trying to focus on both sides of the market, because you mentioned we are getting closer into retailer. I think it's actually both, like really getting into understanding buyers, what they need, as well as providing retailers with the right processes, right tools, right data to support them.
Interesting. And when you talked earlier about I think it's buyer insights on Deal Builder. What kind of information are you now providing to the dealer that is, additional to the traditional lead info?
So Buying Signal is our latest data products that we provide to retailers, and it's designed to give retailers very rich, unique insight into understanding buyers' intent and their preferences based on behavior that we observe on site, which means that retailer can really identify leads that are most likely to deliver a sale. They can prioritize, they can adjust their approach in how they handle those leads in a more efficient way and provide a more personalized buying experience, which ultimately should benefit both buyers and sellers. So that is available to all retailers on all online leads that we are sending to them.
And can you give a couple of examples of the type of information that's really helpful to dealers that they're getting in that package?
So in terms of the buyer intent, the retailer will see in the list of the online leads, they will have a flag whether the buyer is a high intent buyer, so they are likely to buy that vehicle based on activity that we've observed and all of our predictive modeling. We are also highlighting whether the buyers are local to a retailer, whether the vehicle has been saved. And then we also share buyer preferences, things like what type of vehicles the buyer has been interested in throughout their journey. Because as I said earlier, it's never a linear journey, that somebody who you buy a certain car will also have interest in other buckets of vehicles, things like segment, make, models, age range, mileage range. So we are sharing all of those buckets of information to give retailer better insight into their preferences. So if they don't buy this particular car they inquired on, they can open a conversation about other options that might be available to them.
So can I ask all of you, we're now getting much deeper into personal data. How is the regulatory environment affecting this? And I might start with Kristen, because Germany is often seen as the hardest environment for GDPR.
Yes, we Germans, we love our data, and that's okay. We also take that very seriously. I think, Robin, you mentioned it too, right? So trust, being a trusted brand, being a trusted partner is very, very important. And that also goes for our consumers, of course. So we are also sharing insights on leads. We only do this with the consent of our consumers.
And how do you get that consent? Where do you get it, at what point, and how broad is it? And I'm interested in a second in asking the other two of whether it's different, in the different countries.
Yeah. Consent is given the moment the lead is sent. It needs to be really right then and there. The consent is then effective and good if it's done like for the purpose and in that very specific moment. So we could not just say, hey, it's part of the terms and conditions, but it really needs to be in that very moment, and that's what we do when the lead is sent.
Okay, and is this one of the things that's been driving marketplaces to effectively make it obligatory at certain points to either register or sign in and so on, or has that been just a general shift in any case within the industry?
I think to me it's been we've been going from this first phase where it was anonymous and then logged in, and now for us it's identified, and I think it's all about trust, safety, and personalization. And then when it comes to sort of GDPR specific, I think we now have a lot of experience in doing product development in a privacy safe way. I think it's something that stands out for us European players. And I very much agree with you, Kristen. If you sort of design the message in the correct way, we very often get consent. But it's because we also develop things that are sort of useful for the user, so they see the value of it. So I think that's quite a big difference compared to maybe many global players.
And are there a bunch of people who stop at the consent point and don't give consent, or have we just got so used to giving it as consumers that we're happy?
There's definitely users who decide to opt out, for sure. And we
Okay.
respect that, of course.
But a relatively small set of users, or?
I mean, especially our sort of power users, they are logged in and they have sort of full consent. And then there are always sort of these flyby users that are, for obvious reasons, difficult to track, but we see it as something on the margin rather than a big issue for us.
And can you give a sense to us nowadays of, how many people are fully logged in? What % of your audience on any given day is actually signed in?
Our apps are now becoming almost a purely logged in environment. The sort of 90% plus are logged in. And then desktop is much more difficult to drive login ratios because you also tend to get logged out and then don't realize that you need to log in again. So I don't think we comment on the mix, but I would say app is where we have the most of our engagement, and almost all users are logged in.
Interesting. Carolina, anything to add to that?
This would be my answer, exactly what Robin said. So yeah, that's as much as I can share.
Okay, but it doesn't sound like the regulation is holding people up. And
I think like for signing specifically, it's about thinking where signing is a barrier versus where signing is a benefit for the user to get, whether it's extra insight, extra capability, and there have to be benefits. So the key is how we drive signing users very early in the journey at the top of the funnel, how we make sure they see benefit to do so. So it never feels like a barrier, it always feels like an opt-in. So that certainly has been a goal for us. And as users on many different platforms in our lives, I think we are also used to this sort of behavior. A lot of the time you expect to sign in to get access to certain services. So we are trying to follow that path, but it should be about benefits.
Okay, so Kristen, overall, has anything really surprised you so far in your AI developments? Either a positive or something that really hasn't gone the way you expected. Audience always love those other examples, the things that haven't quite worked.
Yeah, maybe let me start by saying that these are really, really exciting times, right? I mean, we all work with machine learning for quite a while. We all have been running like design sprints and ideation sessions, and a lot of the things that we dreamt of like 10 years ago, now the tech is ready, right? And we can do a lot of really, really exciting things in a short amount of time. Something that really surprised me, or maybe that was an aha moment, let me share that one. As two-sided marketplaces, like we are all tasked, right, to strike the right balance between addressing the needs of our consumers, also a lot around transparency and trust, and our sellers and dealers. And something that was, a real aha moment for me was when like this traditional transparency feature, price predictions, started creating value for our sellers and our dealers. Like a few months ago, I ran into a small dealer who participated in like our dealer conference and a workshop on our dealer tools. And he told me that he wished he had logged into the dealer area earlier. Like these market insights on price now help him with his pricing strategy. It's directly impacting his margin positively. And these moments, like at Mobility, these win-win moments that like good product development and AI, of course, create for both buyers and sellers, that's the stuff that inspires us, right? And it gives us the boost to create more of that.
Okay. We've talked a lot about dealers. Robin, you've got a very large C2C trading base as well. Is the C2C lead generation process being affected in the same way by AI, and are you applying it in the same ways?
That's a great question. First of all, I think the C2C content is really important for us from a strategic point of view. It's sort of unique content, very difficult to aggregate, and makes our users come back more often. So for us, it's a strategic focus. And then when it comes to how to leverage AI, I think it's sort of the same kind of fundament as we've been discussing when it comes to buying a car from a dealer. But there's probably even more that we can do on the C2C side. As you probably know, we've been investing heavily in the transactional journey for C2C with the smidig bilhandel, as we call it. And today we hold the hand of the user from initiating a contract, doing payment, doing the ownership change, supporting the buyer with an insurance, and also even a toll tag. And sort of the NPS scores are really, really high. And we see that it provides us with both good user satisfaction, good monetization, but also a lot of interesting data. But here I think AI can support us even more going forward. AI is really good at doing sort of the messy, boring aspects. So I think we could slim that user journey even more in the future. And it's going to be really exciting to see how we can unlock the next level of transactional in C2C.
So basically about really making just easy for the consumer to advertise the car.
Advertise the car is one aspect. I think there we are really, really good. Sort of the way you upload your images, taking out the VIN numbers, putting up all the car specs, having giving you advice on what the car is worth, etc. So there we are already strong. But what I'm meaning here is that I think the helping you actually transact the car between two private individuals, we're doing a good job today, but there are quite a few steps that you have to go through, and we think that scares off a certain segment of users, and they choose to do a trade-in instead.
And can you give us an example of a specific step that you think it really adds most to within that process?
We've really been working on sort of making this as frictionless as possible, but I think AI could support you in a much better way, right? You don't have to fill in all the forms. You don't have to contact the bank maybe, or do the ownership transfer in a smoother way. So I think it's just about sort of compressing the timeline, also being able to answer more questions to the buyer, for example. We see that there are a lot of sellers who decide to sell the car on an auction or do a trade-in because they don't know as much about the car. And of course, with our rich data and an LLM on top, we could also help you answer questions. And so I think it's a great way to empower users and in many different segments.
I'm going to skip on because, as usual, we've got so much to discuss and a relatively short time left. Carolina, how do you judge the success of AI in your lead journey? And is AI changing the metrics you're using to measure success and prove value to dealers?
So I don't think the goal itself has shifted or how we would measure success necessarily, but I think our ability to drive a much better performance has certainly improved, and the possibilities are greater to do more and do it in a very different way. So for us as a marketplace, the ultimate goal is connecting the buyer and the seller and delivering a sale. And this rich proprietary data and AI technology that really can supercharge that data and serve in a very different way can make that experience much smarter, much more efficient. And whether over time it can result in more sales or faster sales, possibly. So there's plenty of opportunities there. But I think the goal stays the same.
Yeah, I guess there's a question. I mean, VDPs have become, the core measure that people have looked in terms of success at advertising. Traditionally people were at lead volume, and then the industry's kind of moved on. But given that you're now talking about better understanding sale, does the metric have to move on again? And actually, should AI be reducing the VDPs rather than growing the VDPs?
Yeah, that's fair.
Getting people faster to the right end result.
Makes sense. So because I jumped straight into sales, that's the ultimate goal, and that's how dealers, retailers all judge whether the marketplace works for them or not. We are very purposely like shifting away from just talking about VDP views as an example, because as you say, the experience is changing so much and it may not be the best measure of performance in the long term, because as you say, the more successful journey of finding the right vehicle for the right buyer may result in less VDP views, not more. So focusing more on those outcome measures, whether that is lead delivers and ultimately sales, is what matters. Sales are the most important metric because as a marketplace, we also deliver walk-ins and sales through walk-ins. So leads don't always capture the full value that certainly we as a marketplace deliver. So we're trying to look at both sales and leads, and then other metrics are more used as a diagnostics for why, if the vehicle is not performing, why that might be. Let's look at the upstream metrics in terms of what might be driving it. So it's a little bit of an evolution at the moment.
And do you actually have the sales data? I mean, are dealers comfortable giving that to you nowadays, or I mean, how do you know the car's been sold?
Another very good question. So we do not have full visibility of transaction across all of our marketplace, but there are two ways in terms of how we can understand conversion to sale. First of all, we do encourage retailers to share their sales data in exchange for deep understanding of their performance and greater insights. So we can show them how Auto Trader really works for them through delivering leads that converts to sale and what's working there, what doesn't, what they might want to do differently. So that's for certain proportion of retailers. That's what we do. We would love to do more of that over time. But at the same time, we also need a consistent way of measuring impact on sale without depending on being supplied with the data, because that will never be consistently done. So in the background, we have also developed quite sophisticated AI models that can predict when sale is taking place based on observed signals on our platform and what buyers are doing, how they are behaving, how they are engaging with vehicles. We can see what signals, like when you observe certain groups of signals, like that gives us a very good sign that this vehicle is likely to sell. This is the buying signals data is based on some of those models as well, when we indicate to retailers some buyers are high intent. So we call the metric unconfirmed sales because they are assumed, but they show very high correlation to actual sale as well. So they are the sort of modeling that I was mentioning before in terms of what's possible to do in the background with the data. We like by collecting, so it's not just grouping and collecting information, but really creating sophisticated models that give us a very different level of insight.
Interesting. And do you all model sales nowadays?
We are working on it, and as I mentioned before, sort of ownership data is available in the Nordics, so you can actually acquire who owns a specific car. And I think that's why it's so powerful for us also to start to verify our accounts, so we can actually, in a privacy manner, ask you, Jonathan, if you would like to add your car to the account, and then start to sort of fully backtrack if you saw that car on our marketplace and who you bought it from, etc. So I think there's quite a lot of exciting things that we can do going forward, but it's still early stage for us.
Brilliant. So I'm going to turn to conversational search now, and just for a bit, because I'm going to ask, to what extent are each of you offering conversational search, and how do you expect that to change the lead journey over time? Maybe start with Kristen on this, and just you already have a conversational element to your search.
Yes, we do. Yeah, sorry. So your question is if we offer this and
how do you see it affecting the lead generation process going forward?
Yeah. Look, these are, I said earlier, it's really exciting times. And also that means that we learn a lot. We do offer that, you're right. We have conversational search, an assistant with the cute name Moby. In the mobility sector, that makes sense. And Moby helps our customers capture requirements, compare models, explain financing options, really like upper funnel, guiding the users through targeted questions to the perfect offer, like something like family-friendly SUV under 400 euros or economical city car for new drivers. And it really helps to screen and compare cars on the platform. We also recently launched an AI search. It's also more natural search. It really translates natural language into relevant filters.
And do you see that changing the lead generation process, or do you think the lead generation process stays the same out of that?
Well, the idea is, and this is also what Carolina said, right? We will see. It's too early to say and too early to measure in hard numbers what the effect is. But of course, the assumption is that we really, really help pre-qualify our consumers, and they land at dealerships not asking if this, what the color of that car is, and if it also has winter tires.
So actually, it's filtering down to higher intent, and only the higher intent people end up at the dealership ultimately, because they've had a much better view of A, what's out there, what might be suitable, and B, actually these individual cars, how suitable are they for them? Is that kind of how you see it?
And it's really upper funnel, right? So we see that as patterns. I also said I worked in retail. You see that conversational search, and then also like free text search or AI search is often used in the very beginning. There's much more to that conversation that also our consumers really, really want to discuss with the experts and with our dealers. But upper funnel, of course, it helps a lot of questions that sometimes even are hidden in quite long attributes and descriptions. So it really makes mobility opens a conversation with our inventory, where before our users really would need to read and find specific attributes. They can now query or interview the inventory.
And are the consumers liking that? Is it a big part of your search now?
So we get really good user feedback on it. It is really early stage. As I said, the AI search is definitely used very well. We just launched it a few weeks ago, right? And we are really clear that there are very different segments of our consumers that have very different needs. So we have heavy users, we have our petrol heads, and they will want their filters, and they really want to drill deep. But we also got the feedback for many years, and now AI makes it possible to deliver against it, to make it just easier, accessible, less technical of a search for car buyers.
Okay, we're going to have in a second to finish this part of the webinar, but the other two of you, before we go to the next segment, have you got anything else to add on that conversational search front? I'm sure it'll come back in the Q&A after the brief break.
I think we see very much the same as Christian. We've launched a conversational search for jobs, and of course we're also experimenting it internally for mobility. And one of the things that we see is that a lot of users, they actually prefer to have this overview. They want to see the entire inventory of their make and model and their price range. There's something about the control aspect. But it also opens up for new demographics to actually find the right car. And I think we have been putting too much cognitive load on the users and with filters and knowing which make and model that you should have. So I think this is also broadening the market in a positive way. So exciting.
And Auto Trader, you don't have a conversational search yet? Are we?
No, so we haven't launched the natural language search. We are playing with things in the background, but more focusing on building the right foundations in trying to make sure that when we launch the experience, we can genuinely help buyers to answer the questions they will be asking. So making sure the data is structured in a way that we can provide the best possible answer. This very small example of it is like we literally launched earlier this week, I think, or last week, search categories, which is like AI-driven categories of vehicles that people can search for. They are much more nuanced than they're not driven by taxonomy, they are driven by AI models that categorize them in a certain way. Things like what is a family car, what is the best first car. We've got OMG category that basically enables users to be like all the funky cars.
I love it.
They are just examples of things like that. You don't necessarily, if people just from taxonomy, you wouldn't be able to answer those questions, because what defines those cars as a first to buy or for the first time driver. So we are using all the intelligence, all the data that we've got to pull together data that in the future will enable us to serve that in the best possible way.
Okay, we're going to pause here. We're going to pass across for a short presentation from Kaiser, our wonderful sponsor. If you guys can go off screen, I'll go off screen. I'm going to hand over to Henrik from Kaiser, and we'll be back in about 3-4 minutes to answer questions.
All right, thanks a lot, and hello everyone. I'm Henrik, and I'm the CPO of Kaiser, and we work with Europe's leading marketplaces, and we help them with things like lead analytics and increasing the efficiency of that all-important handoff of the lead from the marketplace to the dealer. We work across channels, but since the topic today was around real-time connections and AI, I wanted to focus on the phone channel and share what we are seeing from working with marketplaces to improve lead conversion with AI. So there are typically 3 levels of categories of use cases that we see marketplaces evolve through in their adoption of AI capabilities to drive lead conversion. The first one is how do they analyze what goes on in the connection between the buyer and seller, and what are obstacles to those connections. And then secondly, to react faster, how can they help the sellers react better and faster when a high intent buyer fails to connect to them? And last, but certainly not least, how can they use AI to proactively ensure no calls are missed in the first place? Today, at best, marketplaces can count the number of calls that are missed and the number of calls that are dropped, which is typically looking at the duration of calls. Something like 30 seconds is a common definition of a dropped call. But by introducing AI-powered call analytics, you now have a much sharper tool than call duration to understand the size and nature of the real-time connection challenge. So by analyzing transcriptions with AI, we can, among many other things, see what type of connection happens. So here, for example, looking at data from our automotive marketplace partners, you can see that call duration analytics creates a lot of false positives and false negatives when it comes to which leads are actually connecting. And you can get much more actionable insights on why calls are not connecting in real time. So as you can see from this data, a good chunk of calls actually ends up in IVRs where the caller gives up before even reaching a human. And a significant 20+% of calls ends up with a voicemail. So what can you do with these insights then? Well, of course, you can help inform your customers, the dealers, about their challenges, but you can also do much more. You can trigger customer engagements based on what you learn about the failed connection. So a simple example, let's say a buyer calls a dealer, ends up with voicemail, and says something like, I'm very interested in buying the car in your listing. I want to buy it today. You can, for these very high intent leads, send a text message immediately to the buyer, tailored to that message they left with the voicemail, and send a high urgency alert to the dealer that they must act fast on this particular lead, given the high buying intent. So that's an example of how you can react better, faster, more personalized to recover a high intent lead, which might otherwise be lost. But better yet is, of course, if you can proactively ensure that you never have a missed connection again. So remember from the previous slide, in aggregate, about 40% of all calls from a marketplace to a dealer don't reach a human. Connect this to the fact that 75% of all used car buyers buy from the first dealer they manage to talk to, and it's easy to kind of see how costly it can be to fail to pick up on the phone call, pick up the phone and answer calls. At Kaiser, we're working with the leading marketplaces across Europe to solve this problem with AI agents answering the phone when a dealer can't get to it for one reason or the other. The standard kind of starter use case is to connect an AI agent when the dealership is closed or if they can't answer the call after a certain number of rings. The AI agents have the context about the buyer, about the listing, and about the dealer, and can therefore answer most of the most common questions. But not only that, the AI agent can qualify the level of interest, collect additional information about the buyer, and understand when the best time for a callback is. So this enriched lead will then be passed on to a dealer who now has gone from having a missed call to a qualified and enriched lead that they know exactly when to call back. This is just one, but an increasingly common example of how marketplaces are leveraging AI to offer premium services to their dealers and a better buying experience for the consumers. So in conclusion, we see more and more marketplaces deploy AI in the call channel to better understand the size and the nature of real-time connection problems, react better, faster, and more personalized when calls are not connected, and best of all, proactively leverage AI agents to make sure no calls are missed ever again. With that, Jonathan, I'll love to see you guys back on here, and let's do some Q&A, shall we?
Let's encourage everyone back on stage. Great, we've got lots of questions. So what to kick off? First one, top of the list. Anthropic's new 11 plugins reminded the market, which is the stock market yesterday, which fell for many software companies, that LLMs are becoming increasingly capable of agentic action. One concern being the capacity to ingest and reason unstructured data from dealers or agents. How do marketplaces retain a competitive advantage in this context? And I think more broadly, what do you see, how do you see agents affecting the world of lead generation for dealers? When bots are talking to bots potentially about the lead. Maybe kick off with Kristin.
Yeah, look, interfaces may shift, right? And I said it earlier, it's exciting times with a lot of movement. Orders in particular, it's like really durable value. The durable value here is still trust, and it's verification, and it's translating intent into real world outcomes. It's the second biggest invest people and families make, right? So I personally focus less on fear of disintermediation or whether this is a threat, but really how we as marketplaces continue to be just the most reliable path from I'm interested to I'm connected.
Okay, and there's a lot LLMs can't do at the moment that you're doing behind the scenes, particularly along the lead generation process. The other two, do you want to add anything to that, or shall we move on to the next question?
It's very easy to dive into a very theoretical debate. There's so much change happening at the moment, and they're trying to really predict what might happen is really hard. But I think there will definitely be more agents, generalist agents, expert agents. Agents will be able to talk, agent interactions will be the case as well. So I think it's just thinking about, as marketplaces, what value we can really add in that process and how we create those right handover points between agents, between any of the non-human interactions to make sure we remain authoritative, relevant as part of those conversations as well. So we're trying to think about how we build the foundations for, trying to imagine that world without trying to predict what exactly might happen, because I think that's quite hard.
And are you going to offer an interface for bots to talk to you at some point in the near future?
We'll definitely think about how we can make the experience better, and if that results in the AI assistant, agents, bot that support consumer throughout their journey, I totally can imagine that world. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think also just to maybe round off my point of view as well, Jonathan. Marketplaces are about aggregating demand and then connecting it to the right suppliers, and the value that we have is a lot about the data and the capabilities of matching supply and demand. And here I think we will continue to be relevant, and we will most likely see both humans and bots on or agents on our sites too. So
It's such a huge topic, and when we talk to clients about it, it typically takes an hour to talk through even the basics of where AI is in relation to marketplaces. So let's park the big theoretical, come back to the more operational level. So do dealers actively engage with the predictive insights, particularly buyer intent? And we all know that dealers historically have been very bad at engaging with leads. A huge number of leads still don't even get processed by dealers. What makes us, is there any evidence that this is really changing dealer behavior? And can you quantify in any way the benefits to them? Carolina, you're kind of probably most advanced in this, so start with you.
I think part of why we are doing it is to help retailers to prioritize and making sure they do follow up, because if you have a high intent flag on the lead, like hopefully you'll be more likely to pick it up, action it, which should, as I was saying, result not only with a better result for a retailer, but for the buyer as well, who's really interested in that vehicle. It's still very early days in terms of interactions. We have a lot of qualitative feedback from retailers in terms of talking about how they are using that insight to drive more efficiency in their processes, how well those leads are converting in terms of conversion to sales. So high intent leads should convert at least twice as high as any other leads. So we have a lot of certainty behind through data around how high intent they are, and that's the feedback we are getting from retailers as well. So I think feedback so far has been very positive, but I think it's too early to say whether that's changing any of the behaviors like unanswered leads.
Kristen, Robin, any other thoughts on that before we?
It's actually like you asked specifically about, I think also listing insights and pricing insights. It's to an extent that when I do dealer visits, some dealers even say, "Hey, I wish we have had that earlier," or "I want that for a very specific category." They're really used to using that. To Carolina's point, if it helps with the lead follow-up, I think that's these are different. They're different insights, right? What it does help with is getting the relevant users to your listings, because if we help our dealers, which we do, to make sure they have the right attributes in place, the right photos, the right descriptions, these things are just much better findable for the right audience.
I mean, it's interesting. We did a round of interviews early last year with dealers in the UK, and one of the surprises to us was quite how strongly and positively dealers now talk about the tools and the software available to them, and how kind of significant a part of the proposition it seems to have consistently become.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I think the dealers are sort of, it is a younger generation now. They're utilizing a lot of data and tools, both to drive leads through marketplaces and through other channels, very ROI focused. And I think the electrification has also increased the importance of this as residual values are going up and down so quickly. So you need to be on top of your inventory all the time. So I think it provides opportunities.
Let's pick another question up. What's the future of online auto marketplaces as they integrate AI-driven valuation and embedded lending? Are we moving, and I would say faster, towards a seamless integration where buying, financing, and insuring a vehicle happens in one fluid transaction? Is this really one of the most powerful things that AI could give us in a few years' time?
I think this is where buying a car, I think, is so different than any other goods. Maybe property is different as well, because I certainly don't think that in the near future the buyer will be comfortable to do all of those things online with the support of agent AI or not. I think that need for this physical interaction is still there for the vast majority of users. So having the right tools to enable those journeys for the users who are ready to do so, absolutely, but expecting the world to change that way in the short, medium term, across the board, I'm not sure we'll get there. I think it's about how we connect this online experience and in-store experience in a way that it feels like seamless handovers. I think that's the direction of travel for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see this from a more lead enrichment perspective, totally with you, Carolina, right? We see the same. There's really a big element of this is high invest. I need to see that car. What really helps us and what we see a lot is enriching the lead with, hey, there's a financing intent. There's actually a trade-in. That's very, very relevant data for our dealers.
Flipping it round from the consumer side, don't you think one of the most powerful things for consumers is going to be to say, to your own personal assistant, AI personal assistant, look, I want to buy this car, what are my financing options? And just have them laid out clearly. I mean,
totally. I think being able to provide all of that information, and because it's the same about financing, about part exchange, about securing the vehicle, potentially negotiating the price. I think a lot of those jobs can move more online over time and can be facilitated by AI, by agents. But I think would you hand over AI judging whether this used car, which is a unique and it's only one of them, is it the right car for you personally? I think there is still a need for this validation, which is a human validation at some point in that journey. And maybe then you go back and then again, agent picks up the once you've done that validation, picks up the last part of the process as well.
I want to ask one more question that hasn't come from the audience. We've talked so much about the positive sides of AI. In terms of the lead generation journey, are you seeing any negatives here? Any risks, any problems that AI is creating for you?
I think there's definitely obviously risks of hallucinations, bias, transparency. We have spent a lot of time through our first AI product where we gave controls to the user was our co-driver product for retailers. And as part of that, we really focused on how to deliver and build AI products responsibly, because they are the risks and they are real and they have real consequences. So we have to make sure we have the right safeguards in place, the right way of building those products, the right way of monitoring, the right way of controlling the inputs and outputs, so we minimize the risks of hallucinations. So actually, through the work that we've done and some of the products been live for a good few years now, we haven't had those challenges, but we've invested a lot into infrastructure that supports them to make sure they are delivering the right results in a safe way.
Yeah, there's a lot of front loading happening in the product development, right? So a lot of guardrails testing. Before we launched Mobi, we had several big rounds of testing and making sure this is good enough, this is safe enough for our users. That's just really crucial.
Robin?
I agree. Carolina and Kristina covered it in a good way. Maybe one more sort of market-centric point of view could be that if it's easier to reach out or easier to create agents that do mass reach out, you could also decrease actually the quality of leads, or to have fraudulent players trying to get in contact with all of your C2C sellers, for example, or to spam dealers with a new marketplace. And of course, that kind of sort of fraud bots we've always seen, but I think it will become a lot more sophisticated going forward as well. So I think hence it comes back again to sort of it's important for us to have trust and to have verification and to be able to maybe sometimes fight AI with AI.
Okay, interesting. I think we're going to have a very interesting few years. Henrik, just nobody's asked a question specifically directed at you, but are you, from your perspective, seeing issues negative as well as positive around AI?
Mostly, I must say positive. Or there seems to me like there's so much low-hanging fruit. Like you can think about all these super sophisticated use cases, but again, back to what I said before, like actually 40% of all calls are missed by dealers that are connected. Like think about how much they spend on those leads and then they just let them, go unanswered. So just think about very simple use cases where you answer the phone, or maybe you call back the buyer and the dealer at the same time just to make sure someone's there to pick it up. Like I think the risk there is relatively low and the potential reward is very high. So I think I actually see a lot more positive than negative. I do think to Robin's point, from a dealer perspective, I think that there should be a real concern about being flooded with loads and loads of these agentic type of leads that you have to manage, and you can't really see the high intent from all the noise. There's a real risk there. But all in all, I would say super positive about the benefits that we can
Henrik, I
Right.
agree with you, right? So sorry, but like optimizing AI for AI's sake is of course a risk, right? If AI reduces friction for customers and operational load for dealers and improves outcomes, it's doing its job. If it creates noise and uncertainty, it's just automating the wrong thing faster, right?
Yeah. Thank you all. We're going to go off screen now. Really appreciated your time. We could talk, I'm sure, for much longer, but I will be told off if I go any further over the time limit. I'm going to hand back to Kate, who started to say our final goodbyes. So thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Jonathan, and thank you to all our panelists. Really great webinar today, and wonderful to hear some really tangible examples of things they're doing in their marketplaces to cut the friction for the end users, which is great and exactly what our audience want to hear. So to wrap up, the recording will be available in the next few days, as I mentioned at the beginning. Please do reach out to our panelists and connect with them on LinkedIn. Reach out to the AIM Group team as well if you want to continue the conversation. And I mentioned about the AutosBuzz voucher code. So if you contact Henrik, his details are on the screen, then he'll be able to organize a discount code for you for AutosBuzz, which is in the wonderful place of Sitges in Spain in May. And we hope to see you there. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for staying long. I can see there's loads of you still on here. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thank you.